Welcome to another AFL180 panel session brought to you by Guru.com.au. We've had our first of the bye rounds, 2 more to go, and we're going to discuss all the events from this week on this show today. And our usual panels here with us, we've got Vava, g'day, and Jono.
Howdy.
How are you boys feeling today?
Good. Very happy with my result last week. Got 4 of the 6 right. Made up some ground on the betting guru.
Okay.
We should mention the betting guru tried to cheat this week by shortchanging, or by inflating his total a little bit.
Yes.
I wasn't so happy with my results last week, particularly as I think I had the biggest marginal loss I'll have for the year, picking Crows over the Swans, who managed to whoop them by 12 goals. So, yay to that record not being broken.
That was the one that I got on both the betting guru and Vova, picking the Swans head to head, the only one of the panel.
Did anybody expect it to be 12 goals? Or
I didn't expect it to be 12 goals, but I picked head to head because I wasn't comfortable picking a 1 to 39 or a 40 plus over in Adelaide. But got the result. Very happy.
So just to remind everyone, we're talking about the results from our tipping competition, where everyone gets $10 for each match of the round, and get to place it on any of the major markets that are going. Can you read out the ladder, John?
Yeah, so at the moment the betting guru is still on top with payouts at $310.80. But I made up some ground this week, less than $50 behind now, with $262.30. And Vova made up some ground as well. He's up to $240.30.
Still disappointing week. I was only 40 cents behind Jono last week, and this week it's $20.
Yeah, so. $22.
And it was a fairly predictable week. Only one really major upset. That was the North game, where all of us got it wrong.
All of us got it wrong, and the worst part was that the Roos started with the first 5 goals of the match.
I think it was 4 goals.
Shot out to a big early lead and kicked 3 goals for the rest of the game.
I think we've all horribly overrated them. I being guilty of it most with having them in my 8, but they look so good on paper, but there's just something missing there.
Yeah, and I think we'll discuss both teams a little bit later in greater detail. Any other interesting results?
Well, I thought the West Coast Saints game really didn't go according to any sort of plan for West Coast. I thought they'd absolutely kill the Saints, particularly what we saw last week, and they just barely limped home, and even then I don't know if they should have gotten over the line.
I was extremely happy with my St Kilda bet for 90% of that game, as St Kilda was in front and looked like they were going to win.
Saints head to head, yep.
Yeah, that was one of my biggest outsiders for the year, probably. It nearly came off. But in the end, no good.
I think I'm going to tip against the Saints every single round if this is the results they're going to put up. Well, last time I tipped against them was the Carlton game, and they managed to get up there as well. So
yeah, Milne came back. He was getting hammered by the coach earlier in the season, and now he's come back and he kicked 3 in a row there. And
not a big fan. Not a big fan. I know he's not the future. They need to start blooding some of the kids,
like the Australian cricket team.
Like the Melbourne Demons Football Club.
All right, very good. Now, what we're going to discuss this week is our biggest surprises and our biggest disappointments of the season so far. So first we'll have a look at the teams, and secondly we'll have a look at the players. So who wants to start with their teams that disappointed? And
no, look, I think I'll start with my biggest surprise teams actually this year. I've got 2 that have really surprised me. The first one, the Gold Coast. They've been great this year. They've been really competitive in a lot of their games. They're actually sitting 12th on the ladder, which I totally didn't expect, with teams like North Melbourne, St Kilda sitting behind them, which is a massive surprise to me. They've had some good wins, they've beaten some good teams, and if you look at their last 5 weeks, they've won three of the last 5 games.
And they started well from the very beginning. They beat St Kilda in round 1, right?
Yeah.
And then the other surprise for me is actually the Western Bulldogs. they've been, in my opinion, it's they've been really competitive in a lot of games. They've given it up in a couple, but they've actually been a lot more competitive than I expected, and sitting 14th when I expected them to be bottom 2.
Who's it due to? Will Minson having a massive year?
I think he's had a great year. If your ruckman gives you, I think he's averaging over 40 hitouts a game, which if your ruckman is giving you first use of the ball, it helps.
Well, we gave a bit of crap to the coach earlier in the season, and he's proving to be right. I think we said at some point they'd won less games than Melbourne over his reign, but he's got them on the right track.
I think they've got a couple of really good young kids as well. This Dalhouse pickup, I think, is really good. He's just slotted straight into the team, and they've got a couple of other young guys that are really...
Liberatore's come on, Wallace has come on, and even Jake Stringer, I think, looks like he's going to be a really great player with a couple more years in. And Brad Goods, by the way, their newest rookie.
Exactly.
Brad Goods, killing it.
Go Supercoach.
I think there's a single Supercoach team in the country that doesn't have him in there.
John, good picks. My surprise team, I went the opposite direction. I actually have Geelong as my surprise team.
Really?
Yep. I thought they were going to be good. I thought they'd finish in the top 6. I did not see them being in the top 2 at all. They have exceeded all expectations. They've just been remarkable to see how they're playing. They've always played amazing football, but the way they've dispatched some teams, particularly like their performance against Essendon, they came back in a few, but they just look like a gun team to me, and I didn't see that coming at all in the first,
And the way they've been able to play out games, I mean, they've had a couple of close ones against the Gold Coast and GWS, but then run away with it in the last quarter, and they've been able to amazingly overrun teams. Like they overran Hawthorn in the second half in the first round.
And again, they've been able to blood really, really good youngsters and just slot straight in and play brilliantly.
They've had a lot of injuries as well. You take out a lot of their recruits. McIntosh hasn't gotten on the field. Rivers hasn't gotten onto the field really. Chapman's been out a while. Like they're doing it.
Yeah, and they're introducing just killing it. They're introducing a really nice game style. They've got a game plan that doesn't rely on big forwards kicking lots of goals. I mean, Pods and
Hawkins haven't been great.
They've both been okay, but haven't done anything outstanding. But they've got a solid defence led by who I believe is the best backman in the league in Harry Taylor, and a really good fast midfield that's kicking a lot of goals.
Well, first of all, Jake Carlisle is the best young defender in the league.
Best young defender, defender.
I think this will be an argument that goes on for a while. But I think they've actually made their forwards redundant. I think Hawkins is an absolute gun. If he was in a different team, they'd be going through him more. He'd be doing better. They've made Hawkins a bit redundant with the way they played. And he still takes the best opposition defender, which is a key characteristic, but they've managed to play around him and use him almost as a decoy, which is pretty impressive.
And Pods is still playing,
and they've also
well
done
in a different structure.
They've also done it with Steve Johnson kicking less than 10 goals as well.
But he's been playing through the midfield more, so they get his kicking skills through the middle. It helps.
Getting 35 touches in the midfield.
Yeah, well, they haven't needed. If you looked at the last few years, their best forwards have been Steve Johnson, Tom Hawkins, and James Podjavli, and they haven't relied on those guys kicking goals.
But they have different guys popping up every game. Like Christensen killed. I can't remember who he killed. Some team with his stooping up possessions and goals. They got Stokes popping up, kicking goals.
Stepped up really well this year.
There's no passengers in that team. There's really no passengers.
Every single player carries them, so it's unbelievable.
Which is brilliant. I've got to agree with you, Geelong one, by the way. I actually had a position at the start of the year that they wouldn't win the flag, and now it's a bit worrying.
How much to put on that?
Oh, it's only a little bit, but it's at bad odds.
Fair enough. So the betting guru is a little worried.
So I'm a little worried about that one.
John, who's your disappointment for the year so far?
Do you want my...
I thought Geelong was...
go for it.
I agree with you, but that's not the one I had. I had the Gold Coast, like John did. I think their improvement has been just absolutely brilliant. Parts of last year, they were talking about the coach getting sacked, that they haven't improved enough, that Greater Western Sydney's coming up faster than them, and now they've proven everyone wrong, and suddenly they're winning games. And they've got a lot of guys stepping up that aren't Ablett.
A game outside the 8, mind you, as well.
But this is what's going to happen with GWS as well. Their players are actually hitting a certain level where they start to contribute in the AFL system. Like Amira's a freak, let's forget about him. But guys like Dixon, Bennell are all coming up to the stage where they're actually starting to become consistent players.
This year they've improved their clearances out of side, getting way more clearances, and they're kicking a lot more. Getting a lot more kicks full stop, lowering their handballs as well.
And they're blooding some good young players. You know, Zach Smith went down, and all of a sudden Gorringe has come in, and Nichols has come in, and still giving them good use out of the middle.
First of all, they went nuts on the ruckman, and I think they'll trade some of them. But they're going to have a top 2 midfield along with Sydney in the next few years. They're unbelievable, bloody unbelievable.
Extra ruckman never hurts. You can just throw him up forward. Yeah. Now disappointment.
Look, it's hard to separate for me. I've got 3.
Give us one so we can all share them around.
North
North is the biggest one?
Okay. Is a big, massive. The fact that they haven't been able to close out games, you know, I'd say they've probably choked in a number of games, and it's now mental. It's now upstairs for them. Like every team, you hear coaches coming out and actually saying that they've told their players, North are mentally weak, mentally fragile. Go at them and they'll cave, and
it becomes almost like a self-fulfilling
it.
prophecy because the other team is playing harder because they know they've got a chance.
Yeah, that's right. And North on paper, and you mentioned it before, Rob, that North on paper look amazing, but they're just not they're just not getting it done.
I just want to add that their stats haven't changed from last year at all, so they haven't gone down, they haven't gone backwards. It's just a mental thing. It's just closing out games and getting that result. And you know, we saw it once or twice, and it's like, oh, they're still a good team. But when it happens more than that, suddenly it's a problem. This
just goes to show they're 13th on the ladder with 4 wins and 7 losses. Yet they've got a percentage of 111.1. So they're just losing the games that they lose, and they're winning well the games that they win. I mean, they're probably I think they're about the 4th highest scoring team in the competition.
Yeah, but
their scoring accuracy has decreased this year.
The bottom line is good teams win.
Yeah, that's
good
correct.
teams get it
that's
done.
Right.
I think.
That's right.
Jono, I agree completely with your North pick. I think my biggest disappointment this year is the Lions.
Really?
Yep. I'm not going to go as far as to say that I thought they'd make the finals. I thought they'd be just outside, but they've gone backwards. I don't think North's gone backwards in so much as they've just been mentally killed. But the Lions have gone backwards. I think they're potentially worse than they were last year.
Well, what did they? Was it 10 wins? 8 or 10 wins they had last season?
Oh, we'd have to go back, but they're on track for less wins this year than they were last year. And their players, I'd say Rockcliffe is the only one that's stayed consistent. The rest have gone downhill. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I think they're just a bit inconsistent, but they have shown glimpses.
I think so, but also their leader and the guy who's really helped them throughout the years, Jonathan Brown, is older. He's slower. He's not getting the ball as much. He's not having the impact and turning games like he used to be able to, and no one else has really stepped up to pick up that slack. Yep. They've had some injuries. They've had some suspensions which haven't helped their cause.
But for the most part, a lot of teams have got injuries. I mean, Freo's been hit, Geelong's been hit. They're still managing to get it done. The Lions, you know, they've had access to early draft picks, but they're just not coming in at all.
I don't know. I didn't expect much from the Lions at the start.
No, I honestly didn't. I thought they'd be bottom 4.
Right.
Yeah. For me, the biggest disappointment is West Coast. I think this year they would have really taken a step forward. They should have been an improving team and the maturing team and all that. They're sitting well outside the 8.
No, they're not. They're 8.
Oh, they are 8, but they've got an extra game, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so and
they've
played some soft games. They've got a rough run coming home as well. This year they've got worse disposal efficiency. They've got worse scoring accuracy. Even the free kicks aren't going their way. It's not quite happening for them.
What do you mean the free kicks aren't going their way?
Yeah,
well,
it makes a difference
during the week.
They had a bigger plus differential last year than this year, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they've still got the biggest plus
differential.
This is
true. They're not ducking as well this year as they were last year.
That's right. Look, I think they're a disappointment.
Michael, they had a very interesting They had a very interesting graphic on ahead of the game with St Kilda, where they had all their experts on where they tip West Coast, and everybody had them in the top 2. Everybody had them in the top 2 or going for the flag. So relative to what people expected,
Well, I think everyone at the start of the year would have expected that West Coast would have won near on all of their home games for the year.
Yep.
So you call it, maybe they drop one, call it 10 wins, and then they go and win another 5 or 6 games away.
Easy.
And they'd be pushing for a top 4 spot, but instead they've lost games at home they probably should have won.
Well, who have they lost at home? They lost to Richmond and Freo
and Hawthorn.
Okay. Well,
it's not that bad, but
and
still.
Did they lose to Carlton at home as well? Did Carlton get over the line in the end? They did.
They did too.
Yeah. All right. So players.
Well, I've got 2 more disappointments that I've got to get
wow,
off.
5 disappointments between us.
That I've got to get off my chest. St Kilda. Yeah, look, I expected them to have a down year, but I didn't expect them to be 2 wins at the halfway point of the season. I think they're just not competitive at all. And Melbourne, they're an easy target, I know, but Melbourne have shown nothing, no improvement, no heart.
What about the first quarter against Collingwood last week?
Oh, the first quarter against
Best
Collingwood.
quarter they had all year. I'm sure they only kicked 1 goal.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'll give you Melbourne. I'm not giving you St Kilda. I think we have lost some close games. We've pushed teams. I don't think we're a good team. I don't think the Saints are a good team anymore.
So as a St Kilda supporter, you're not disappointed that they're 2-9.
I would be disappointed if they were
He's
2-9
unhappy,
with
but
a
he
percentage of 50. They've been in games. They've pushed West Coast. They've pushed Collingwood. They've pushed Sydney. They haven't been great, but you know, it's a natural evolution.
all right. So players, biggest disappointment, biggest what do you want to call it?
Surprise for the year.
Surprise.
Yeah. Look, this time I might start with my my disappointment in players. And the last 2 teams that I mentioned in my disappointing teams, I've picked a player from each of them. First is Nick Del Santo. 2 years ago, this guy was an All-Australian player. He was averaging nearly 27 disposals a game, over 5 clearances and over 5 tackles. In 2 years, he's now down to under 23 disposals a game, less than 4 clearances and less than 4 tackles a game.
He cannot play against the tag. 2 years ago, he was. We had a better midfield. He wasn't the first one to be tagged. He cannot be tagged. I agree completely that he has been a massive disappointment. Can't argue.
Yeah. The other one for me, once again, bit of a soft target, but Jack Trengo. In his first season in 2011, he averaged 5.5 tackles a game and over 20 possessions. 2 years later, as the captain of the club, a club that's struggling, you want your leaders to at least stand up and show some fight. He's averaging 15.5 possessions a game and still averaging 5 tackles.
I don't like that pick at all. He's clearly playing injured. He shouldn't even be out there.
Playing injured, do you think?
He looks like he can barely run.
If you take the field,
He's never been able to
you're
run, I
fit
think.
to play.
I do not agree with that at all. I think they make some terrible decisions. They give him a jab before some of the games. He shouldn't be out there. Whatever he's got, he's probably got OP.
I don't think he's ever had a lot of speed.
Yeah, but it's not like he looks like he can barely move. I remember watching the kid when he came in, and he was smooth. He wasn't quick, he was smooth.
He had aggression. I mean, he got suspended for a sling tackle because he was, but he showed aggression.
Just want to add last week.
Aggression at the tackle.
He
was good last
kicked
week.
2 goals. He was quite influential. I think he kicked the first goal after Collingwood's 10 in a row, which was really needed.
Captain's goal at a really important time in the game when they were 10 goals down.
I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not giving this one to Jono. I disagree, mate. I think he's playing.
So what have you got?
My disappointment for the year is Gaff.
Agreed.
He has been terrible. I was watching him against the Saints, and he's so outside. And I don't mind outside players if you get it constantly and use it well. He could barely got the ball. He's gone backwards. I thought it was going to be like a Del Santo level player by this time. He looks worse than he did in his first season.
He kind of is a Del Santo player.
Yeah,
he's equal with Del Santo this year.
I agree, but exactly.
But I
Correct.
can back you up there, Vobs. I mean, he averaged in 2011 around 18 disposals a game. Last year he was up to nearly 27 a game. This year he's back down to 18.
Yeah,
Now, for an outside running player
That's
who
terrible.
you want delivering the ball,
Yeah.
he should be getting more.
But yeah, but even if he is outside, he needs to go into a pack every now and again. He's not going in there at all, like nothing.
Number 2?
I only went
That's
with
it.
the one. I
Gaff.
went with the one.
Don't like him.
I was very disappointed in Gaff. I didn't have enough strength to be disappointed in anybody else as much as I am with Gaff.
All right, let's look forward to next week.
Well, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Surprise players as well.
Surprise players. We're going to ignore them? Or?
Surprise players.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
who's
ones
been
who've
surprised?
surprised us this year.
Oh, yes.
Not
Okay.
ones
I thought
who've
it
jumped out of a box and gone, surprise!
There's
There's
actions
going to
going
be
on
players
there.
that come right out of behind a pack.
Correct. The Jack in the box, if you will.
For example, what's his name? Nat Nui.
Yes.
Jumping out of the middle of the pack. Surprise.
Jack Rewald's the one we're going for. Jono, go for it, son.
Look, I've got a few that have jumped out at me this year. Essendon's 2 young defenders, Hibbert and Carlisle, have both really stepped up this year. Especially, Carlisle, I'd put in the top 2 key defenders in the league, and
Thank you, Jono.
Hibbert is one of the he's one of the best rebound backmen in the first half of the season. I think they've been brilliant. A couple of small forwards. Lindsay Thomas has been, he's kicked over 30 goals for the
Well,
year.
it
And
seems to be signalling something
after
here.
having the yips last year, to mentally turn it around and do what he's done this year, I think it's really good. And the other one's Stokes. He's really upped his output. Will Minson in the ruck. Who would have thought that he'd be the number 1 ruckman in the league at the start of the year? And Dan Hanbury, just in that midfield that he's in, to actually be the outstanding player is an amazing effort.
I agree with the majority of those. I hate the Lindsay Thomas pick. I agree he's gotten over the yips, but I just cannot stand watching him as a player. It just drives me nuts. I think it might be the ducking and the staging for free kicks.
I agree, but for a small forward who's on track to kick 70 goals for the year.
Just on that, congratulations to Australia winning 4-0 against Jordan.
He's not going to get there in a million years. And yep, agreed. I've got just the one player that I agree with most of those. My guy is Heppel.
Heppel?
Yep, thought it was soft outside.
Yeah.
Didn't like him at all. He has completely changed this year. He's a good clearance player, goes hard.
Yeah.
I didn't see it coming at all.
He was always a talent. He was always a talent and could use the ball really well, but he's added that hard edge in getting the hard ball and
You
the
know
contested possession.
who I thought he was going to be? Remember Joel Bowden?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be Joel Bowden. That guy, for all the stats he compiled, he was the biggest dream team hero of all time.
Yeah.
Not a good player. Heppel is completely
He's
gone away
getting
from that.
there.
Good for him.
You know who he reminds me of? The Collingwood guy. Thomas?
Dale Thomas?
Dale Thomas?
Yeah.
Reminds me a bit of him, but he's going to get to that elite level.
Yeah.
Well, if he's not there already.
Agreed.
That's it? All right, next week we've got some 6 more games, 6 big games. Let's have a look at our tips. Friday night, you've got Hawthorn versus Carlton.
Yep.
Nice big game there. Hawthorn will obviously start favourites. Jono, what are you picking?
Look, Hawthorn have beaten up on Carlton for the last few years, and I don't see it changing. With the only person that really caused us any worry last time we played them was Chris Yarran, and he's been omitted after cracking the sads for wearing the red. I was going to say the red dress, but the red vest. But he should have put a skirt on. The big,
That is shameful. Do you like that?
No.
The whole red vest thing. Like I just think making players wear that
It's
is
no good.
so harsh.
No good.
But I mean, it's the way
I can
you've got
understand
to
them
accept
getting
it. As a senior player in that club, you've got to accept it. And you've got to put the right face on and have the right attitude. And I can understand him getting dropped this week.
Oh, he would have been scared afterwards of Mick Malthouse.
As a result, I'm taking. I think the line's juicy at 26.5. I think Hawthorn are at least a 5-goal better team. So 26.5 line. I think that's a great bet.
I've got exactly the same thing.
Because I suck at betting, clearly my tips this week are brought to you by somebody that knows a lot more about football than I do.
His
my
girlfriend who
Stephanie.
lives in the US.
Correct.
That's where he's resorted to.
And I have got complete faith that she will get, that she will absolutely close the lead.
And how How did
close
you
the
pick
margin.
these? Was it just...
So I'll give the reason for each one of them. I thought it was really awesome. So she's picking Hawthorn this week. I went for the margin of 1-39, mainly because she hates Carlton from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I thought it was a solid reason. So I'm taking Hawthorn 1-39.
All right, nice. Hoping Carlton's going to pick up a little bit
It's as good a reason as any.
and not get absolutely smashed.
Well, I brought in Walker this week into my super coach, so he better kill it again.
All right, next game, Richmond versus Adelaide.
Yeah, look, I've in Melbourne, I'm tipping Richmond for the win. Off the back of the bye, I don't see them blowing Adelaide out of the water. I'm taking them 1-39.
All right, I've got Richmond just because Steph likes Tigger from Winnie the Pooh. I've got them at 1-39. They're a better team than Adelaide. Regardless, they're playing at home. I think it's going to be wet. They're playing at the G, right? I believe the match is at the G. Either way, I think they're a better team. I don't think they're going to destroy Adelaide.
Yeah, they're playing at the G.
And I think the rain might make the game a bit closer than it would otherwise. I'm going to Richmond 1-39.
Yeah.
I'm giving Adelaide one more chance this week.
You're going.
I'm going Adelaide plus 19.
They weren't even competitive against Sydney
That's
at
right.
home.
Richmond's going to start faltering this time of year.
Okay,
make
so
sure they get
you're predicting probably a Richmond win, but
yes,
in a close one.
a very close one. Hopefully Dangerfield's going to get 50 possessions and 4 goals, and that'll actually happen. All right, next game. We've got Fremantle at home to the Brisbane Lions. Would this be the lock it in game?
This is my lock it in game, but I can't pick a margin or a line. I'm taking Fremantle head to head at $1.06.
Whoa!
I just don't trust Ross Lyon teams to blow other teams out of the water.
You are 100% correct. I don't trust Ross Lyon teams. There's zero chance they lose. I think this is the safest bet of the whole eliminator of the whole season. I'm going 301-39 for the reason that I will at some point this year relocate to WA, and I think I need to start being friendlier to the WA folk.
I've got exactly the same thing, so I think we all thought along similar lines on that one. Next game, Essendon versus Gold Coast.
Yep.
The surging Gold Coast.
I've changed this bet 3 times. I started with Gold Coast at the line. I've now gone. I then changed to Essendon 1-39, and I've settled on Essendon 40+. I think the game in the wet last week will take it out. Will take it a little bit out of the Suns. They've lost Charlie Dixon again to an ankle, and I don't think Daniel Gorringe is any sort of replacement for Dixon. And I just think Essendon will be too strong, especially at Etihad. Their run and carry. I just think that 7 goals they'll cover it.
I got Gold Coast because the Sun is much better than the Bomber. I am taking plus 3.5 with the Gold Coast, so let's hope they keep it a bit closer.
Yeah, I've got Gold Coast 1-39.
Gold Coast 1-39.
Yeah.
What odds are you getting on that?
The odds are pretty good, $5.60.
That's a decent bet.
It's a value bet. I'm not sure that it will happen.
My
Really?
concern is,
You're supposed to be the betting guru.
John,
That's
I'll
right.
tell you why he might be onto something here. Essendon plays down to the opposition.
Yeah.
Except Melbourne accepted. I think they don't blow teams away as much as they should. I think
Didn't Essendon beat Gold Coast by about 150 points one year?
Yeah, but I mean, this was
Yeah.
probably their
It was a different
second
team,
game.
yeah.
Yeah, let's not compare this.
Gold Coast 1-39. Next game is GWS at home to Port.
This is another tough one. GWS were very competitive against Geelong for 3 quarters last week, and Port are no Geelong. But I just think that Port have got the goods to get over the line. I'm taking Port head to head.
Taking Port head to head as well. The Giants from New York. We hate the New York in general, so we cannot possibly tip the Giants for the rest of the season. I'm taking Port head to head.
How good is Jeremy Cameron going to be, though?
He is an
He's gonna be
absolute out and out gun already in a team that doesn't get the ball down there much. He is going to be. I mean, I would trade Franklin. I would trade if Hawthorn got Cameron straight up for Franklin. They should be happy.
Yeah.
I also have Port, but at -30, so I'm going to need them to do quite well here. And the last game, all Melbourne game, Collingwood versus Western Bulldogs.
once again, I think Collingwood are much more than a 6-goal better side than the Bulldogs. The line at 36.5. I think they should well and truly cover that this week.
This is the only bet where Steph has made it tough for me this week. I will agree that a cute puppy is much better than a terrible magpie, and my heart always tells me to tip against the Magpies. But I got to pick the Bulldogs this week. I'm going with a plus 36.5 line and hoping to God that McCartney has got as much improvement out of them as Jono reckons.
I've got Collingwood 1-39, so we've kind of all gone different on that game. I'm just thinking Western Bulldogs will hopefully pick up against Collingwood, as most teams like to do.
Yeah.
And actually perform and get something decent happening, but Collingwood will probably still win.
Okay, so I'm aiming for a Collingwood 40-point win just to knock you two back down.
Yeah, I think we're going to be quiet. We're going to separate quite a bit this week, I think.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been good, and I'll see you all next week when we look at the results.